If you've seen any of my recent videos, you know I've been gearing up to building a desktop robot arm, something that's large enough to hold a camera like this and give me crazy tracking shots. I've been experimenting with all these different types of robot arm actuators to find one that gives me a balance of torque, precision and backdrivability in a compact package. I've finally settled on using cycloidal drives to form the joints of the arm. They give me a nice balance of size and torque, and they're virtually backlash free. I made this drive before. It's a 20:1 reduction and it's powered by a NEMA 17 stepper motor. I'll link the video where I designed it up in the corner. I'm going to use the same design but with a couple of small changes. The first is that I'll now be using two cycloids instead of one. They're offset 180 degrees from each other, and I found this increases the torque and decreases the amount of backlash in the system. As you can see, I've also increased the width of the drive. This allows me to fit both cycloids in nicely and gives me more stability where the drive sits on the base. Let's print out the parts and put one together. I'll start by attaching the axle to the motor with a set screw and popping the bearing and axle into one of the side plates. The stepper motor can then be screwed into the side plate and the large bearing is popped on top of it. A smaller bearing goes into one of the cycloids, which can then be pushed into the main housing. The side plate and bearing pop into the main housing again, and then the main axle can be inserted through the cycloid bearing and screwed into the axle on the motor. The other cycloid gets a bearing, and I'll insert one of the drive rods at this point to help guide the cycloid into place. It's a bit fiddly, but the cycloid goes in just fine, and it's followed by the other drive rods. The cover pushes on, and it's followed by the second side plate and bearings. The only tricky part is aligning the stub axle for the side plate and screwing it into place. And there we have it, a completed actuator for the robot arm. Of course, one actuator, no matter how pretty, all by itself doesn't make a robot arm. So I've got another one here, and I've also got some bits to use to join them together. Hopefully this will all just pop together. We've got holes here for screws, but they can go in later, and we should have an arm. I'm going to hook these steppers up to something and see if we can get it moving. I've got this little Arduino Mega hooked up to two of these DM542 stepper drivers. Honestly, they're a little bit overkill for this project, but I had them lying around and they've got terminal blocks, so I don't need to wire them up into a proper circuit board or breadboard to make them work. Now, this setup here didn't work first time, I have to admit. The top gearbox was binding, so I've taken them apart and I've applied plenty of this lovely PTFE white grease. It seems to run quite smoothly now. Let's see if it's going to work. So there we are. I just need to print out something to hold a camera on the end here, and let's see if it's going to work for filming. Right, I've got the parts fresh off the printer. I've got a random phone mount and some, well, quarter 20 hardware. I haven't really got much of this stuff lying around, so I have to make do with these bits and bobs. Right, that's all nice and secure on there. Pop it in the arm. And set my phone to video mode. Drop that in. And let's see if it works. Let's just put it up in the air a bit so it doesn't crash into anything. Right, here we go. Well, apart from me being an absolute muppet and having that in portrait orientation, that worked quite well. Let's up the game a bit and go for something heavier. Let's try this little mirrorless camera. I've got a little tripod attachment here which we're going to put on. Camera goes on top. And let's see how it goes. Cross your fingers. Well, I'm blown away by that. It only went and bloody worked. There's a little bit of wobble, which I think is down to the size of the base here and the diameter of these connecting rods up here and here. I'll redesign those parts and work on the rotating base next. So please subscribe to see those. Give this video a like if you've enjoyed this, and leave me a comment down below if you've got any good ideas on how to mount the camera properly to the end of the arm. It feels a little bit Heath Robinson at the moment. See you later.